the next session we're going to go through is with Ramzey, and Ramzey is the creator of the Grounds of Alexandria. Now usually we would introduce him and go through that whole process of what he does, but because this session is building from the ground up, we're actually going to go back further from before you started.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about how you actually ended up starting. So I suppose the first question is, can you tell me what you did before the Grounds and how your journey led you to what you're doing?
I suppose my journey before the Grounds was because of my father. He was this phenomenal entrepreneur in this food service sector of the business. And, I always seen his passion for business, and it gave me the drive and the ability to be able to basically go out there and create a series of restaurants, bars and bars. And one day the GFC hit, and unfortunately I sold all my businesses, went in there, tried to help him, and unfortunately lost the business, and then I ended up losing him from cancer. So the Grounds was born basically out of a need and desire to look after my family and do something great.
Yeah, fantastic. I've read a bit about how you started, and a lot of the things that pop up is that you raised capital from friends, which I think is really interesting. But also, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, when you were raising that capital, did you go to your friends with a business plan and go to the guy that owns the space with a business plan, or was it more of a gut feeling for you that it was going to work?
It was actually more of a gut feeling. Something that I did notice was with my prior cafes, a lot of landlords don't give you the creative freedom to basically create what you want. So I knew I had this vision, I knew I had the ability to create something amazing, and I went to the landlord of the site in Alexandria that wasn't, it wasn't the area it was today, and I presented him this these 3D renders that my sister did, and it basically, he rang me up the next day and said start, so that's where it all began.
Yeah, fabulous. Now you're successful, you've got a great business, everybody knows you. Would you do anything differently now if you could change from what you started?
With the Grounds of Alexandria, I wish I had bought the site around 4 years ago. I could have bought it for around 25 million. Over the last 4 years, we've developed the Grounds, as you can see on the pictures above. They currently, around 6 months ago, sold the site for 110 million. So, and that's due to the fact that we created so much value on that site. Everyone wanted to be there. You can't get any space there anymore. So
yeah, sure. If only past you knew that now.
Yep.
So then, the other thing that pops up a lot with you is that you were building a community, and I think when we talk with everybody else a bit later, that's going to be a big part of it. But you seem to really find your staff important and how that works. So I was just wondering if you could tell us a bit about that.
I suppose with a big thing with me is, I love my staff, I love my people, and I'm a big advocate of learning and developing myself, and I share that knowledge with them. I make sure my staff understand the vision of the company. I make sure they're very goal orientated, and I make sure the ones that are closest to me are always learning and growing. I suppose that's how it builds an amazing culture for me.
Yeah, sure. Now, I went to Grounds of Alexandria a couple of weeks ago, and the one thing that really stood out for me, being a marketing person, is that you have so many events and so many different styles of things that the community can do. When you started, did you always expect to have school holiday programs for kids and Sounds of the Grounds and those things, or has that all evolved over time?
It's definitely evolved. I think a big problem with hospitality is people are looking at it as just serving food and beverage, and it's the biggest mistake you can make. And it's I look at it as an experience, but I also look at it as it's my growth, my development, and my people's development throughout the course of their journey. And when we change and move, depending on where the customer's going, we're able to add more value. So we're always looking at that. We're always seeing where the market's going, what's going on, what can we do next, how can we do it better. We're always questioning ourselves to basically make the experience better for the customer.
Yeah, sure. And I suppose on the experience for the customer, and potentially this is a question for your sister who did the designs, but maybe we'll get her up in a second. But I was just wondering, you probably have the most Instagrammable space in Australia in terms of food.
It's actually,
was it intentional?
No, this last year we got ranked 7th most Instagram place in the whole of Australia, behind the Harbour Bridge and Coogee and all that sort of stuff. No, it definitely wasn't in the beginning, but something that we're so proud of, and our biggest value is basically beauty. We love creating beauty, and people love that, and they want to share that when they come to the ground. So
Yeah, and do you actively encourage your community to share or your staff to share, or you just, I suppose your community are your staff and your customers?
We definitely encourage sharing. You know, something I wish I did before my dad passed away was create more memories. And I truly believe, you know, the grounds of Alexandria, the grounds of city, was built to create memories with friends and loved ones. And social media is just a part to share that.
Yeah, sure. And I suppose the final question on that is it a marketing tool for you, or is it just something that works and that happens to be a good marketing tool?
Look, I think that's both. You know, it definitely is a marketing tool, and it's basically a way to be able to share your value, your vision with the world. You know, it's the platform that marketing has moved towards now, and yeah, it's just about sharing.
Yeah. So just keeping along those lines, how much of your time is actually spent creating the videos? Because you've got a great YouTube channel.
Yep.
You personally, or do you have a whole team of people around you that work on that stuff?
I've got, for me, that work directly with me, my creative team. I've got my beautiful girlfriend that works, she's my stylist. I've got a marketing manager, I've got an art director, I've got a graphic designer, I've got a social media manager, and basically their job is to create content. You know, we're doing it in a physical form, and we just translate that to a social form where we can share it across our platforms.
Yeah, sure. So I see so many restaurants open and they're doing amazing things, and bars, but they don't have the ability to show what they're doing through those spaces. So it's great that you've got a team behind you to help you with that. The one question that I get, well, I get two things as a marketing professional that people say all the time. The first is, can you make it go viral? Which is grounds for me to walk out and say not interested. But the second is, can you create me something like the grounds? How often do you get that question?
Look, I'm always approached by landlords, you know, let's create something similar, let's do this or let's do that. But the biggest important factor and the hardest thing for us as a team is to find landlords that let us create what we want to create. We've got a gift to be able to see what is missing. We've got a gift to be able to see, you know, what is missing in the world in terms of beauty, in terms of experience. And I don't mean that by something that we have, you know, pulled out of the air. We've actually studied psychology, we've studied experience, we've studied sensory experience. We understand what it is. And in the world of everything moving so efficient and everyone using Amazon over in America, and Uber Eats, we're in a dangerous world. So I believe, you know, the hospitality needs to really understand the elements to how to create an experience.
Yeah, sure. And how often a month do leasing agents come to you?
It is a lot. It is a lot. I would say it is a lot. I think more it will go into the fashion. You know, obviously I built in the city. You can see a lot of fashion stores now emptying the stores, and there's empty stores in there. So I think it's going to be in a big rise in the next 2 years, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to throw something at you. We
Yeah.
haven't talked about it yet, but you've just talked about lots of people, retail going down in terms of fashion.
Yep.
I'm watching a lot of people then putting food outlets into spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's going to become a problem if it's multiple food outlets all the time? Everybody's trying to open, everybody's trying to have the new trends. Do you see that being a problem, the more people opening?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I do see it's a big problem. But the thing is, the good will always be the best because, you know, they understand the psychology behind what they're doing and they know their why. They're not building things for the sake of, you know, let's build this venue or let's build this concept. There's true meaning behind it, and people connect with that. And it is definitely on a rise. I hear, you know, Westfield at the moment talking about like Myer closing 20 stores regionally. Let's fill it with food. And that's not the answer because it cannibalises the whole industry. But I truly feel sorry for a lot of people that are going to be a lot of heartache in terms of what goes up and what goes down.
Yeah, sure. People put their heart and soul into things,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's pretty hard. The next thing I sort of wanted to touch on is this, along the same lines of people asking you to open a Grounds of Alexandria somewhere else, or asking me to do the marketing and make their venue what you've got. But just looking at, can you move a venue? Do you think you can move a venue, pick up the entire thing and say move it from Sydney to Brisbane and drop it here?
You could. But
Will it work?
That's a hard question. A lot of people say, yeah, replicate. But for me, as who I am, I wouldn't do it. It's about, I think when you find a new venue or a new space, it's actually understanding what that space is trying to do. And I don't know, I always think about, you don't replicate, you make things better. You understand, like the Brisbane market, you understand what they want. You understand, okay, it's always hot here. What do I need to create? What do I need to do that's different? What's unique? So to make that place truly special.
Yeah, sure. Like you talk a lot about community and everything that I read, and you have done that today. So I imagine if you say, "Oh, this is the community in Alexandria," I'm certainly not going to be able to open that in Spring Hill. Here, it's a different community. So
Yep.
I sort of see what you're saying there. I ask every business person I meet 3 questions. I'm going to ask you the same questions. Do you have a weakness?
I think everyone's got a weakness. I hate sitting on a computer and doing process and system-driven stuff, so I hire people around me to basically fill that role.
Yeah. Next question was, how do you combat it? So that's good to know.
Well, there you go.
Who could you have absolutely not created your business without if you had to pick one person?
Oh,
You have to kind of say your sister, don't you? Because she's sitting right there.
I couldn't. No, it's not that. But there's a couple of people, I couldn't do it without. But, obviously foremost first is my father. He gave me the drive, the passion, the ability to see and give me the hunger to be able to do what I do. And obviously my beautiful sister that was able to, and her husband's able to get the vision out of my head and basically translate it onto paper and obviously make it better. I couldn't have done it without those
Are you
two.
easy to get the vision out of your head and put it on paper?
I'm sure I'm not. No. The answer would be no.
And then the last thing is, if you could give one piece of advice to people building a new business from the ground up, what would it be?
I think business is very hard. It's extremely hard. You got to have your passion, and you got to be able to want to develop that passion through learning and constant growth. And I think it comes down to know your passion, know your gifts, and always be willing to learn and grow and feed your mind.
Yeah, perfect. And what is next for you?
For me, right now, we are actively looking at other sites. We're in negotiations with a lot of people, but I've got an end vision to do something truly great, do something bigger. And we're looking for property developers or people, big entrepreneurs that want to share that vision with us and want to do a joint venture with us to create something truly amazing, not only for us, not only for the customer, for the country as well.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we might leave it there.
Yeah,
And we're going to have the panel session in just a second. So we're going to talk about trends. So we're going to start with Uber Eats, pop-ups and events. And so we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
You can ask a question if you like. Yeah, sure. Well, so we would definitely, you can, if you're okay with that, Ramsey.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're definitely going to do questions in the next session as well, so absolutely happy. But do you have a question now?
I had to be honest, I was Googling you while you were talking because I wasn't aware of Grounds.
Okay.
Some of the viewers may not be as well. And I was looking at your menu, and I'm really interested to see if you've got enough as a bakery and patisserie on site. And I'm interested in the cheese industry, which is a serious. My name's John Morwood, by the way, sorry. I'm really interested in the artisan cheese industry in Australia, which I think is a seriously emerging part of the food industry in Australia. I think it's probably, right now, it's probably at the same place that the wine industry was in Australia about 20 years ago, maybe or so. There's a lot of interest, there's a lot of great cheesemakers in Australia. I'm just wondering if Grounds is actually latching onto that at all.
Interested in going to cheese, is that the question?
Yeah.
No. Engaging with those artisan cheesemakers in Australia in terms of the wonderful product, the overall product that Grounds provide.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always interested in creating new spaces or engaging with people. Absolutely. And there's a lot of space at the Grounds, obviously.
A lot of space to do heaps of
Yeah,
new things. So
yeah, a lot of
you
space.
do spend a lot of time with
we've got
innovative stuff and new people.
Yeah,
coming
we've
through.
got the markets there on Saturday and Sunday, and they are local providers of local produce as well. So we try to help them as much as possible grow their businesses. So 100%.
Does anybody else have
Thanks.
a question? No? Okay, we might leave it there for this one, and then we'll be back in a second.
Thank you.